We're in this devotional series on the book of Revelation, looking at these exhortations to the seven churches in Asia Minor. It begins with a vision of Christ that he gives to the Apostle John. But what he's wanting to see happen is a renewal in the church. The series of devotions that I'm doing is called Overcomers. It's the title bestowed upon people of faith who persevere. And again, it's what Jesus is looking to inspire in the churches in Asia Minor in this vision. The church in the first century was beset by trials from a hostile world, scandals from within the church caused by corrupt and selfish leadership. Does it sound familiar? So the vision speaks not only to the ancient world, but to us as well. It's a word of rebuke, but it's also a word of encouragement. Will we listen? Today we're going to look at the letter to the first church on the list, Ephesus. Faithful, persevering, but distant. Let's look at Revelation chapter 2, beginning in verse 1. To the angel of the church in Ephesus write, the words of him who holds the seven stars in his right hand, who walks among the seven golden lampstands. And those lampstands are representative of those seven churches and really the church overall. I know your works, your toil, and your patient endurance, and how you cannot bear with those who are evil, but have tested those who call themselves apostles and are not, and found them to be false. I know you are enduring patiently and bearing up for my name's sake, and you have not grown weary. But I have this against you, that you have abandoned the love you had at first. Remember, therefore, from where you have fallen. Repent and do the works you did at first. If not, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place, unless you repent. Yet this you have, you hate the work of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who conquers, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. All right, they've lost their first love. How do they get it back? How do we get back our first love? Life has a way of grinding us down, and we still hope, we still have some faith, we persevere, but we're just not feeling it anymore. If I can be so trivial as to quote the song, you've lost that love and feeling. How do we get it back? How do we get that first passion that we had for the Lord back in our lives again? Well, among the many things that we can do, we need to remember certain truths. First, we need to remember that acknowledging a problem with the Lord, while frightening, it can be frightening in any relationship, what comes next after acknowledging the problem. With Christ, we don't need to fear. He loves us. Yes, there's this consequence of the lampstand being taken away, but that's not about your personal individual judgment. That's about the institution of the church in Ephesus. Yet even there, with the church as a body, there is mercy. The church in Ephesus has become distant, but the Lord hasn't. To the angel of the church in Ephesus write the words of him who holds the seven stars in his right hand, who walks among the seven golden lampstands. He walks among us. He's with us. He walks among the church. He walks along Ephesus. He walks alongside us. You. Now, I'm deeply concerned. If you know me, you know that I'm deeply concerned about the state of the church in America. Some studies show that 75% of Americans identified as Christians in 2011, but in 2021, that number has shrunk to 63%. 10 years ago, roughly 18% of Americans were not affiliated with any religion, identifying as agnostic or atheist or nothing in particular. And that number grew to 29% in 2021. Now, in large part, the increase in the nones category and the decrease in people identifying with the church has been fed by changing social norms, but also by church scandal, abuse, and even COVID. Many people stopped attending church during the lockdowns and the pandemic, and they found that they didn't miss it. Sadly, the church in Ephesus died sometime in the 2nd century, and many churches today are facing a similar fate. But I have this encouragement, even as we face challenges from without and from within, that though we may have become distant, the Lord is ready for us to find our first love again. And to do that, we've got to remember that He is not far off. He is among us. He is with us. He is for us. And if we're looking to find our first love again, we need to remember that though we may have cooled off, the Lord remains passionate about you. Turn to Him. Find Him faithful again this week. Blessings on you all.